Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Sensorica's training on our network resource planning and value accounting system. I just want to thank everyone for joining us and for coming together to learn about this very powerful system.
We'll start by a very general overview of the NRP value accounting system. And we are at this moment on the first page. Don't be shy to ask questions. This is not just a presentation, right? It's an interaction, and the questions you might have, some other people out there might also have. So you will help yourself, but you also help others better understand how the system works. So what Lynn and Bob did here on the first page, they are the most important and active programmers of this tool. They created a model of the network, and you can follow these buttons here in order to take some actions. Okay, so as you can see, there's a section here on the page about orders and planning. This is where you can plan for work, where you do project planning, for example. There's a section of produce and coordinate. This is where you can log your contributions, including on the right side some expenses that might be allocated to projects or to the network as a whole. So this tool here allows you to manage the network as a whole, all the resources that we use to build the community, but also to manage individual projects. Okay, and so projects in Sensorica are governed and managed independently. I still hear some noise from the background. If you can mute, I don't know who's plugged in. So there is two ways to interact with the system, either from this chart or from the top menus. Let's go with the top menus because I feel a little more comfortable with that. What the system shows here is an inventory of all the resources that Sensorica uses and can be utilized in different processes, in different projects. You can filter those by artistic content, can be pictures, flyers, a movie, technical designs like 3D models, electronic designs, documented ideas and methods. Can be products that the network produces, a prototype, publication, and then they're filtered by domains and by other criteria. So essentially on this page, you see everything that Sensorica members or affiliates can use in any projects. Then I want to draw your attention on the organization tab. Here, you see essentially the structure of the network, and there are a few categories that are very important. Custodians, these are entities that legally own assets, important assets that are used by the network. Can be individuals or can be organizations. For example, ACES Cake is a non-for-profit, and it is responsible for holding the space, the lab, where the activities happen in Montreal, and also some very important equipment and tools like 3D printers and prototyping equipment and so on. Exchange firms, these are organizations, formal organizations that are in charge to deliver products and services to the market, and affiliates or individuals, part of the network that get together and collaborate to create value. So you can navigate the entire network on this page. Just trying to get it up. So the other page that I want to show here, the most important, we're not going to go on the supply or distribution, maybe a little later. The demand, this is the page where you see what's coming in to the network as a request. An affiliate can have a request for some tasks in the context of a project or in the context of a whole network. For example, if somebody wants to do a crowdfunding campaign for a project, this is where the planning is done for this crowdfunding campaign. It creates a demand, and from there, we'll see how people can contribute with work, with other type of resources like money and some materials, some tools, equipment, space to this process. Since this is a presentation about how the system captures contributions to different processes or projects, we go to my work. So this is a page where it shows what I am working on. So I'm signed in. You can see my name here. So this is stuff that I'm doing now. It gives me a list of processes or tasks within projects that I'm involved in. And I can work on it now by clicking this button. I can close the task. And so this is what I'm working on now. There's the to-do list that I don't use too much, but anybody could use. And this is tied into the logging process. So once the task is done, you can actually turn that to-do task into a logged contribution. So I can contribute something. I can plan to contribute something to this particular project. And I can set a date in the future with a description for myself. I can put a URL, and then I can add that to the to-do list. Another interesting item on this page, so the to-do list updates with this particular item here that I can click and edit. Another important section on this page is a list of tasks that I could do. So these are unassigned tasks. There's a very short description about the task, and I can take this task. So if you're there at home and looking to contribute with something, you can actually take a look at these activities here: shopping, manufacturing, design, some mechanics, analysis and strategy. So you can take one of these tasks in a particular project that is that appears in the title of the task. So that's the My Work page. Another way to look at your activity is from All Work. And this is interesting because you can see all the activities within the network, and you can filter by date. So let's say we take it from August 3rd, which is today, I guess, to the 11th. And we filter by all projects. So these are essentially all the tasks that are active today that somebody is working on, and I can also work on. So for instance, if I take this one and open it in a new tab, I can see who's doing what. So you can see here some work events. TB, Daniel, Tammy, and Jim have logged a certain amount of time, which is 0.25 hours, to do some meetings. It was a meeting to communicate with other participants about how to do the work, essentially. So we were planning, we were doing some coordination and facilitation on this particular project. So you can do it from here. You can extend this period to get even more activities that are active at this moment within Sensorica. So this gives you an overview of everything that's going on. So you see something else that appeared here, sponsoring initiative summer 2015. And you can also filter by project. So if we can go back to this same project that we had before, PV characterization, and reload, this item here will disappear, and we'll end up just with that particular project. So this is how you can find stuff to do, what's active now, and you can choose to participate from My Work and from All Work. What we have been doing, just to make it even easier for people to capture their contributions, we have developed some pages on the Sensorica website, which is the content management system. Okay, there's a dissociation between the system that manages contributions, captures and manages contributions to projects, and the space where the work is documented. Okay, so we're now on the Sensorica website, and we're gonna continue with the same example of PV characterization project, gonna stay within the same context. So in order to facilitate the logging of contributions to project, we have created a planning, coordination, and logging page that is associated with every project in Sensorica. And in here we have a map of the planning, okay, which is just another visual representation of how tasks are aligned in order to complete this particular project. So this is the timeline. You have 4 milestones and some initiation stage, and as time goes by, work goes further into the project. So now we're in between milestone 3 and milestone 2. So there are 4 main category of activities in this particular project, and I can click on one of them. Suppose I do outreach for the PV characterization project, milestone 3. I click on this little box and it opens what we call a process, which is essentially a cluster of tasks that have been designed for to complete this portion of the project. And this particular class of tasks is related to outreach, and that could be, well, in this case, we only have one work requirement. If we take, for example, prototyping, then we will get a selection of different work requirements, different type of activities that are lumped together into this particular process. So this is about prototyping of a device. So it's physical work, working with material items, with electronics and mechanical parts, assembling them together. And as you can see, there are different work requirements, documenting the work, doing some engineering work, which is testing, assembling, shopping for parts, and programming. Okay, all these work activities have been lumped together. So this is the environment where, in the end, an affiliate that contributes to a project logs their contribution. And in this particular case, there are a few important items. The output is what this process produces. It's an R&D report. The work is a time contribution. And then down here, we have other types of contributions. Start with citation. If somebody is using a design that was made by someone else in another project, we can cite it here. I can simulate a citation of a design, bath design, for example, and I can add it to this process. Let's put a quantity there. So essentially what I'm doing here, I'm pulling the contribution of that affiliate that created this design by citing it within this particular project. And in doing that, I essentially give a claim to equity to for that particular person. I'm just going to delete it because we just created for nothing. Same thing with consumable inputs. If, let's say, for example, I use the 3D printer to prototype something, I can decide to use some resin for the 3D printer. The system goes into the inventory list that we saw before, and it gives me what's there. And I can choose 0.5 liters, for example, of this particular material, and I can add it as a contribution to this process. Now, this particular resin for the 3D printer can be purchased by any individual, and by logging it here, I give that individual a contribution to this particular process. And just to complete the example, since I'm using a 3D printer, I can choose it from here, 3D printer equipment, and you have a list of 3D printer there that we have in the lab. In this case, it's the B9 Creator, which uses that particular material. And I can put 3 hours of use and pull it into this particular process. So we're not just talking about logging time here, we're talking about logging also the use of equipment and consumables, and also citing some work by someone that has been done in the past. Okay, just gonna delete these for now. there's another, so just to recap here, the way we got to this was from a project page on the Sensorica website where we had made some planning and made it visual to be easy to find. Another way to find this particular process is to go to our work. Okay, I'm just going to show you how to do it. And it should be somewhere here because this is a process that's within this timeline. And it is about prototyping. So I probably find it faster if I just do a search. Prototyping for milestone 3. So if I open this, it's going to end up in the same location. So you have the same process here. We just deleted the items that we created. Or
So,
you can, yes.
So yeah, I'd love to jump in and have any questions, any burning questions that people might have, just to be a little jump into some interactivity in our process. So Monica or Natalia, is there a question that you have with a general? I guess for me, I'm wondering if there's a general understanding of the purpose of the system.
So just to kind of recap to make sure I understand, there's two basic pages that you can go to. There's the one where it's the Sensorica Value Network, where you see this toolbar of the organization, demand, supply, inventory, distribution, my work. And that really allows you to get a sense of the organization, how it's set up, what the work orders are, what's being put in. And then my work directly allows you to log in your time and to also do some filtering to see where the different projects are going on. But there was a second page or a second site that I think you called it a content management system that really allowed you to see the workflow, like from a project management perspective. Is that on a different website or is it a tab? And how do you, are those two interlinked in any way?
So yes, this is a different website. We separated the content from the value accounting and the planning. Just because it's very, very complex to have a system that does everything at once. And so we thought that the NRP and value accounting system should be a slim tool that only manages contributions and builds relationships between agents, resources that they use, economic activity, which is very, very complex on itself. And then content management, this is where we store documents, computer programs. I can go through this particular project, the PV characterization, just to show you what I mean by content management. So essentially here you have a database with all the reports and R&D work documents that we use for this particular project. You might have some mapping tools to show you how this project is set up. We have a pad where we leave our daily comments. There's a forum where we store our discussions. So, you know, the NRP value accounting system is dissociated from all that. Okay, here we deal with the content, videos and pictures, and we have some coordination tools like an agenda or a calendar, and also mini blog. Okay.
So the content management system is really, in some ways, your portfolio of projects. and each project has really, if someone were interested in a project and they started from the other one, this is where they would get the history, the background, the structure, how everything is set up to be basically brought up to date on where that project is and how they might be able to contribute. Is that fair?
Exactly. So the project page is the first thing you go to if you want to participate in a project. And there might be some orientation tools associated with that that tells you how to get involved. I have some questions about this project. Go to the FAQ section, join the forum, and ask an affiliate. I want to participate, again, ask in the forum, join, and go to the project page, or I want to buy this product or service. So the project page is the first thing and the most important thing that you want to consider when you want to participate in the project. And this is where the content is, and this is where the coordination happens. And then from that page, you created a planning and contribution logging page, and we made these visual tools. So there are different points of entry into the NRP, Network Resource Planning and Value Accounting System. And we're experimenting with all these different things, okay? So you can either find what to do on My Work. You will have a list of tasks with a very short description, but no picture, no media. So you might find some links in there that points you back to the website where you can get more context, and where you can probably find a way to interact with people, to open a forum discussion and ask more questions about this and so on.
Natalia, did you want to ask a question so that I know you wanted to jump in?
No, actually, you kind of nailed it. You took the words out of my mouth. So yeah, that was where I was going.
So if I wanted to look at just an overview of the portfolio that's Sensorica of the project, where would I go to again? And would I just be able to sort of see a page of all the different possible projects and what you could do with each of one? Or would I need to know the name of the project in order to go to the content management system?
Well, I think we need to redo this video because the content management system will evolve in the near future. So what I show you now, it's something that will be deprecated maybe in a month or two. But let's go for it. So there is a project page, and now the way it is presented is by a list, and that's not very good. So you have projects and sub-projects. For example, here, mosquito project, and you have all these sub-projects here, or most important tasks. Think for the PV characterization project, we'll see it here. Okay. So this is where you browse projects. Again, it's not very user-friendly. So this will migrate to a new website with some more visual representations of these projects, a picture, some videos, and some very short description. And you can probably have associated with those the activity level and other metrics about the project, right? For now, this is what it is. So this is where we can find the PV characterization. If you click from here, we're going to end up in the same place, right? Or there's always different points of entry. Or you can go to the Sensorica NRP, go to organization, and then we'll go to projects. And here you have a list of projects, which gives you a very short description. If we navigate down to the PV project again, here it is, design a prototype PV. So it's very, very short description. And here you have the project page as it looks like in the NRP value accounting system. It tells you what are the resources that are created, what are the active processes. So again, we can go to the same process that I used in the example. I can open it in a new tab. You can see who's contributing in what capacity. can see all these contributors. Daniel is doing mechanics, design, electronics, and so on. So what you see here is more the economic data, okay, that is presented about the project, as opposed to here, which is the content, discussions, coordination, pictures, designs, videos, documents, and so on, right? And they're both
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, they're interlinked, so you can go from, you can actually go from here to the NRP representation. Again, if I click on the planning and coordination, this will essentially lead me to these processes in the NRP. If I click here, for example, this is going to take a bit long to load, but this is where you're going to see the entire planning of the project. And if I go to the project page, PV characterization project on the NRP, I click on this button, I click on this link, and it brings me to, so they're both interlinked. That's what I'm trying to show here. One of them shows an aspect, which is the economic activity, and the other one shows another aspect, which is all the content and coordination and discussions around this particular project.
So TB, I have a question.
Great.
Yes, go ahead.
You have, you showed the hackpad, and I know that on that you have listed kind of a to-do on use of the hackpad. And then there's a to-do list in a feature in the NRP.
Yes.
And within the NRP, that to-do list is actually, or can be, unrelated to a particular project. So I'm wondering if it wouldn't be prudent to load things that maybe I'm working on or have worked on that are not tied to a project, but they have value, possibly, in another project. And when it comes time to do the citation, I have an unrelated or uncorrelated or unassociated to-do that's complete, that has a value of time to it, and it can be brought in and made as a citation relevant to a particular project. And then I'm now getting credit for work that I've done in the past, as having an idea that contributes to a project that I didn't know existed. So it's a way to incentivize us to post whatever we're doing, whether it's related to a project or not. The fact that we get up in the morning and we start doing stuff, we ought to tie that into a series of tasks that are either related to an existing project, or we can create an imaginary project that we might want to do, or we can just have it as a set of tasks that we're working on, and those become citable, if you will, later on in other projects that actually have some kind of funding behind them. How's that sound?
That's where my mind goes, that's for sure.
Yes, so this to-do list can be associated with projects. I mean, every item in the to-do list can be associated with a project. Some projects...
Can it be unassociated from a project? Can it just be listed?
No, at this moment it should be associated with the project, but it can also be associated with a generic project like building Sensorica. And yeah, it can be just generic for now, but that's an interesting request. Maybe we should ask that to Bob and Lynn.
Maybe it could just be called unassigned work, or
right,
something,
exactly.
You know, if it just needs nomenclature, then give it something that...
Yeah, this is an interesting question, Steve, because anywhere you capture a contribution within the system for now, it must be associated with a context. The project is called the context of work. So it's either a particular project to have a prototype done or to work on a product, or can be a network-wide project. Let's do a crowdfunding for Sensorica, or let's work on the Sensorica logo. Okay, but it has to have a context. So it's an interesting question. Yeah, we could probably leave it free and then later on let it floating somewhere in a no man's land. And if it is associated with a resource that is created, that can be picked up.
Open work. We could call it open work.
Yes. For example, I can.
Exactly. That's so funny. There was a fellow that TB, you may remember him, Andrius Kuliskauskas. He's a Lithuanian, and he kind of did some really early pioneering of this kind of open work, and he called it working in parallel. And he was trying to get all of us to post our work, even though it wasn't related to anything anybody else was doing, but just get it out there, and then we could look over one another's shoulders and see what we're working on. He was, unfortunately, it was back in the 90s where things were pretty kludgy. So we really didn't have a robust platform like the one you're working with. And so it kind of died for lack of enough energy to make it work. But I really, and that notion of open work, Tammy, that's, yeah. Wherever that thumbs up stuff is, yeah, I'm for that.
I just wanted to bring in here yet another way another practice that we developed about how to link content management and the NRP, the place where the contributions are captured. So I'm just opening a Google Doc, which is a space, a collaborative space, a virtual place where people meet and coordinate and work together, a simple Google Doc. And we usually post links to the NRP within the doc. Contribution accounting, log your contribution here, you just have to click the link and there you go. So that's the practice. As we work together on something, we place the link directly in that context to make it easier for people. Just one click and go to that particular process where they can log their contributions. And just to finish the logging process of time, anybody can join a task that has been created by someone or create new tasks. So for example, I can invite a collaborator to work on this particular process and to do some analysis and strategy, and I assume that this will take 5 hours, and I give that person a small description here. So suppose I invite Tammy to do something, and the system now will create another work requirement for Tammy. I just have to find it where it's created. Usually it's at the end. So you see there's a lot of work that has been already logged here. So this analysis and strategy, Tammy to do something. And I can also work with Tammy collaboratively on this particular task that I created. I did some work on this. So I can go here and say, today I worked 1 hour in doing something, and then I can save it. Tammy will see this and can do some work here too. Or she can commit to it. She can say, I'll work on this later, but trust me, I'll do it. Okay, so in that case, we know that somebody's on it. So that's basically it when it comes to the interface of logging time.
Awesome. Are there any final questions before we close the call? All right, well, seeing none, thank you everyone for your participation, and we look forward to our work together. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.